So let's talk about Black History Month.
Okay.
So I think when talking about Black History Month, it is important to go back in history and think of where it actually really comes from. And I think it comes from Carter G. Woodson, who basically found this month of February. First, it was 1 week, right? The Negro History Week, in which we reflected on Black history, and in which he started to have conversations about Black people. And he was also actually the person who found the study program of Black history and Afro-American history.
Black history is also the voices forgotten, the erased from the calendar, from the curriculum. So he was the one who brought all this back into perspective and gave the blacks in the history of the United States a face, a voice. And also on their shoulders was the US builder, so they cannot deny that. So it's very important to consider not just Black history, but the whole capitalism and the system is all based on the Blacks of America. And we have to bring this history back into the perspective of, when we talk about history, you cannot erase this from history. Mm-hmm. That can't be. And that's why it's so much important that even though it's just this 1 month, to always remember, and that not just now, but always. And that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know why it is celebrated in February?
Well, I think it's because Abraham Lincoln, who abolished the slave trade, and not until a century later did actually people realize they're free. And also another author called Haggis, who was also one of the, the drivers who drove this also as a poetry and author who also helped bring.
Yeah, he was in civil rights movement activist Frederick Douglass. But I think we also have to be critical about that, since we've just had a conversation about Abraham Lincoln, right? And his backstory. As one of the US presidents who abolished slavery in that sense, he still in his personal life didn't change a lot of things, and he actually owned slaves, even though he was the one who wanted to abolish.
And they didn't know that they're free. That's so crazy. They didn't know they were free until almost a century later.
Anything else important? Why do we celebrate Black History Month? Why do we do that? I think one thing what is in the culture of having a Black History Month is having like exhibitions in museums or activities in universities where we give voice to Black people, where they can take up space. And I think especially with this example of Abraham Lincoln, it is clear that it is so important that in this matters of racism, we are the ones who are supposed to speak, and other people who are not affected directly by anti-Black racism are the ones who can learn and listen, because they've never gone through our experience and they don't know what our gaze is like, right? Even though everyone should fight together, it is very important to let Black people empower each other and also share their voice in another sense than only in relation to racism, but also having Black voices in seeing them as artists or as politicians or as other important figures who are just people who we can look up to and not always reduced to the fact that their skin color is Black in a negative sense. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the question is, when you talk about, you can just imagine, we have to talk about Black history as a forgotten people. So bringing the Black history back into history, into the curriculum, into books. I mean, can you imagine, it was a race, so we are now speaking about ourselves, about our culture, about our heritage, and it's not somebody else talking about it. That's very, very important. We are the ones who are telling our story from our perspective, and it's our narrative and not somebody else. We've always been defined. I mean, everybody knows who I am better than I do myself. So the Black History Month is to emphasize the importance of recognizing a people, the Black people. So when we talk about Black History Month and not green, yellow, or whatever, it's like we are the people who've been erased from the card, the curriculum. It's like we never existed.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's philosophical or whether it's history, whether it's like, you know, having any senses of thinking, we've always been erased from history. And there's so much we've done, but you never read it, you never see of it, you never hear of it. So we're here for the change, and we're here for make it clear we've always been existing, and not just now. So it's not just about February alone. It's like February is just a place where we have the permission to get loud, you know, celebrate ourselves and embrace that heritage of the Blackness we are. And Black is beautiful. It's not always pretty, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's a good ending sentence. Black's beautiful.